Good morning and welcome to Tuesday. Thanks for being with us. I hope this journey has been as much fun for you as it is for me. I love studying Scripture and I love all the new things that I keep discovering. In fact, one of the problems that I have is I'll be preaching one series, I'll be studying for another, and then I'll just be reading on my own. And I always get excited about what I'm reading on my own, and sometimes I want to preach it more than what I'm doing. But sometimes you'll see it later in the preaching cycle. You'll see a book come up, and it will be one that I've spent some time studying and had some fun with, and want to make sure you have as much fun with it as I do. So we've got Paul and Barnabas off on a mission journey. How did Paul get here? Barnabas wouldn't got him. The first pulpit committee in the Bible is one guy. It's Barnabas. Barnabas' name means son of encouragement, and he is the one that's always building up other people, and people feel better when they're around him. He encouraged the early church by selling land and giving money when there was a tight time going on, and so people gave him that name. It's not his real name. It's the nickname that the disciples gave him. It means son of encouragement, the one who builds us up. And I wonder what it must have been like for Barnabas to be in that Antioch church and say, I know the guy who needs to be here. I wonder what he told Paul when he went and found him in Tarsus, because see, Paul had been converted and nobody believed him. He was a staunch enemy of the church. And so his former friends, those who had agreed with him in being an enemy of the church, now they were after him. They thought he had betrayed the cause, and so they were trying to kill him. Now, the early church, you can imagine how suspicious they were of him. Here he is, the one who had been persecuting the church, now claims an encounter with Christ, and now he wants to be accepted into the church. Really, Paul? Not so fast. So they didn't accept him. So, not knowing what to do, Paul goes back to his hometown, Tarsus. That's where he is. We don't know what he was thinking. We don't know what kind of plans he was making. We don't know what was going on with him there. We just know Barnabas knew to go find him, and he did. And so he brings him back, and Paul starts his teaching in the church in Antioch. And he begins to pattern what he's doing in Antioch. He uses that same pattern in all the other churches he's doing. So, there's one thing about where you go study, and there's one thing about where you learn how to do it. And so Paul was learning how to preach. He was learning how to deal with people. He was learning how to do his missionary work, working in the church in Antioch. Here is a key point that we miss. Part of the redemption story for everybody is when they're given a job. Did you know that? It's when you say to somebody, hey, I've been given this project, I want you to come help me. Hey, aren't you good at this? Somebody told me that you do photography or you do this. I've got something I need to do, and you bring them into doing something that matters in the church. People show up, they have an experience with Christ, then they don't know what to do with that experience. So what do? You put them in a class, right? And they go and they sit and learn. But they're not learning how to live the life of Christ as a Christ follower in real terms. That happens when you give them a job, when you give them a ministry. Come help me. We're going to go feed the hungry. Come help me. We're going to go help these single mothers. Come help me. Come do this. You're good at this. Because see, there are some things you learn from Jesus only in obedience. It's only when, like Peter, you get out of the boat and you walk on water for a handful of steps, but you do that in obedience to Jesus' call. See, there's some things you learn only in obedience, not in a classroom. And it's when you begin to teach that new believer, this is what you will know as you serve Christ. He shows up when every other resource is exhausted. You'll have what you need to do the ministry he's called you to. They learned faith, they learned trust, they learned to count on Jesus, and they learned that because you gave them a job. If Paul hadn't, if Paul had not responded to Barnabas, if Barnabas had not gone and gotten Paul, we wouldn't have about half of the New Testament, because most of it was written by Paul. And it happened because Barnabas went and gave Paul a job. So here's 60 seconds. Who is it who's around you that you need to get with and get them a job? I'll give you 60 seconds, and I'll see you tomorrow.